After my father finished telling me that every Mercedes had real class, I asked him one dangerous question. Every one of them? He looked offended. Of course, old Mercedes were built properly. I laughed. So, the Mercedes-Benz CLK 55 AMG is equal to the 600 Pullman, and the 560 SL is no better than the rest. He pointed at me and said, "Do the research before you embarrass yourself." So I did. And honestly, some of these cars surprised me. A few looked legendary, but felt less special once I studied them. Others were easier to own, more enjoyable to drive, or far more important than people remember. This is not an official ranking, and Mercedes owners will disagree. It is my list, based on engineering, character, history, desire, and one simple question. Which classic Mercedes would I actually want the keys to? From number 10 to number 1.
And before its owners begin typing in capital letters, let me explain myself. I actually like this car. Under that clean, almost polite body sits a hand-built 5.4-litre V8, producing around 367 horsepower, connected to a tough 5-speed automatic, borrowed from serious Mercedes hardware. Contemporary testers praised its immediate acceleration, strong brakes, comfortable ride, and the fact that it could embarrass faster-looking coups without dressing like a racing advertisement. That matters, because it preserved the old AMG idea: class first, violence later. The cabin still feels expensive, the engine sounds properly mechanical, and the whole car is usable enough for normal life. It is a gentleman's coupe, carrying a very impolite right foot, and that quiet confidence still feels unmistakably Mercedes today. So why have I thrown it into last place? Because being good is not enough when the other 9 Mercedes changed history, motorsport, luxury, or the meaning of excess. Its steering could feel distant, the automatic gearbox was smooth rather than exciting, and the heavy front end could punish suspension arms and tyres. Then, ownership adds its own comedy: electrical faults, blocked drains sending water into the cabin, rust around arches and sills, oil leaks, 16 spark plugs, and early radiators capable of contaminating the transmission. Apparently the engine was built to survive forever, while the electronics were given shorter career plans. I do not hate this car. I hate that, to me, beside the Hammer, Pullman and Evolution 2, its story feels almost reasonable. Number 9 is the Mercedes-Benz 190 E 2.5 16. And this one annoys me, because it is almost too good at being sensible. Mercedes gave the compact saloon a Cosworth-developed 16-valve engine, a dogleg 5-speed gearbox, stronger brakes, sharper steering, and a chassis that reviewers praised for balance rather than nervous aggression. The engine makes around 200 horsepower, but the real pleasure arrives above 4,000 revolutions, where it finally stops sounding responsible and starts behaving like a touring car. Only 5,743 were built, so it is rarer than many people realise. It looks like a junior manager's Mercedes, yet it carries the seating position, instruments, and mechanical seriousness of somebody who secretly spends weekends chasing BMWs through wet corners without ever turning the daily journey into punishment for passengers. So why is it sitting this low? Because owning one can turn admiration into a maintenance subscription. A cold start rattle may point toward the timing chain, fuel pumps can leak. Aging injection hoses create vacuum leaks and rough idling, and the dogleg gearbox can become stubborn enough to demand a rebuild. Brake fluid leaks, tired shock absorbers, worn ball joints, corrosion, damp entering near the A-pillars, lifting door cards, and a bleeding lap timer display add smaller insults. Even the body kit can crack and fade. Mercedes built a compact performance car, then apparently included a part-time apprenticeship in diagnostics. My bigger complaint, though, is emotional. The engine needs revs before it feels special, and the Evolution models later turn the same idea into something far more memorable. This car began the argument. Its descendants delivered the punchline with less restraint. I kept moving the Mercedes-Benz 450 SLC 5.0 up and down this list, because the cleverer I looked, the stranger my decision became. Mercedes did not merely install a larger engine and collect applause. It built a 5-litre aluminium V8 around 40 kilograms lighter than the older iron block unit, then used aluminium for the bonnet, boot lid and bumpers, removing more than 80 additional kilograms. Even those unusual front and rear spoilers were shaped to reduce lift, not decorate a brochure. With around 240 horsepower, this long coup became a technical rehearsal for aluminium engine Mercedes models that followed. So yes, number 8 sounds disrespectful. The engineering deserves a higher place. My hesitation begins when admiration has to become desire, because this car asks to be understood before it becomes beautiful. Then, ownership starts removing the romance one wet carpet at a time. Rust can hide around the rear and side windows, wheel arches, doors, floors, jacking areas, and beneath the passenger carpet. Cracking around the lower control arm mounting points is serious enough to demand expert inspection, while sun-damaged dashboards, collapsed seats, aging climate controls, and thirsty fuel consumption make neglected examples expensive. The V8 and automatic gearbox are strong, which makes the body problems irritating. The engine may be prepared for a continent. The metal surrounding it may be returning to nature. What I hate is needing a specialist to approve the structure, drainage, suspension mounts, and history before desire becomes trust. That is why it remains number 8. Technologically brave and important, but less beautiful, less intimate, and more conditional than the 7 Mercedes waiting above it. Honestly, number 7 gave me the biggest headache so far, the Mercedes-Benz SL 55 AMG. Part of me wanted it much higher, because this was not merely a pretty roadster with a loud exhaust. Mercedes gave it a supercharged 5.5-litre V8, around 476 horsepower at launch, 700 Nm, active body control, and a folding metal roof. It could reach 100 km/h in about 4.7 seconds, yet still cross a country without making the driver feel punished. That combination matters. Ferrari offered drama, Porsche offered precision, this Mercedes offered speed, comfort, and open sky in one deeply confident machine. It is the kind of car that makes a tunnel feel necessary, even when your destination is in the opposite direction on a perfectly clear Sunday morning. Then I remembered why it cannot move above number 7. The engine is usually the dependable part. Everything wrapped around it seems determined to test your loyalty. Active body control can leak through pipes, struts, seals, or a tired pump. The electro-hydraulic braking system needs its recall history checked. Blocked drains can send water into the boot, where it may damage the roof motor and central locking pump, while the folding roof itself can misalign, seize, creak, or stop halfway through its expensive performance. Add intercooler pump weakness, electrical faults, rear arch rust, and aluminium panels that are difficult to repair properly. Mercedes built one magnificent car, then gave every workshop department something to invoice. I love what the SL55 does. I dislike how many complicated systems must agree before it does it perfectly without illuminating another warning message first. At the event, the Mercedes-Benz E55 AMG nearly ruined my ranking before I had even finished the list. It looked like an ordinary executive saloon wearing better wheels. Then its supercharged 5.4-litre V8 delivered 476 horsepower and 700 Nm with almost insulting ease. Reviewers loved the same contradiction: immense acceleration, remarkable high-speed stability, a comfortable ride, useful rear space, and enough refinement to carry passengers without announcing the violence available under your right foot. My father called it the clever man's AMG because it could behave like a limousine until somebody challenged it. I understood his point. This car matters because it made supercar pace feel usable, discreet, and strangely mature. It did not ask the driver to suffer for performance, It asked the road to keep up instead. Quietly, then the sensible voice arrived, unfortunately sounding like my father. Drive it first, inspect it twice. The E55 can hide expensive trouble behind that face: pneumatic leaks or tired pumps, sensortronic brake faults, failed intercooler pumps that steal power when heat builds, corroded gearbox cooler pipes, oil leaks, aging electronics, and rust around early wheel arches. Period reviewers also found the brake pedal difficult to modulate, the steering slightly distant, and the car less communicative than its outrageous speed suggested. Apparently, Mercedes wanted you to reach 100 miles per hour before developing a close personal relationship with the road. That is why I stop it at number 6. It may be the best everyday machine here, but the cars above it offer rarer stories, sharper identities, or historical madness. Excellence made it practical. Practicality keeps it from becoming mythical. Number 5 surprised me because the Mercedes-Benz 600 SEL is easier to respect than to explain. At the event, it sat among smaller cars like a private building with number plates. Mercedes gave it the company's first production 12-cylinder passenger car engine, producing more than 400 horsepower, yet the real achievement was not speed. Double glazed windows, soft closing doors, reversing guide rods, immense rear space, and almost complete isolation made every journey feel officially approved. Period reviewers praised its quality, acceleration, room, and ability to move more than 2 tons with strange confidence. My father called it the last S-Class designed before Mercedes became embarrassed by excess. He may be right. The 600 SEL matters because it made size, silence, and unnecessary engineering feel like perfectly reasonable requirements for a luxury saloon today. But number 5 also explains why greatness and ownership are not the same conversation. Early biodegradable wiring can crumble, air conditioning evaporator failure may require dashboard removal, pneumatic pumps and window regulators can fail, and 12-cylinder servicing costs more than maintaining the smaller engine versions. It is enormously thirsty, awkward in tight spaces, and testers found its steering heavy at low speeds, its seats surprisingly difficult to perfect, and its mass impossible to ignore. Mercedes apparently built a car for crossing Germany, then remembered some owners might need to park outside a bakery. I still love its authority, but I understand why it stops here. The 600 SEL is the greatest conventional flagship on this list. Number 4 goes further. It does not merely transport powerful people comfortably. It was physically designed around the theatre of power itself. My father did not even wait for me to introduce number 4. He looked at the Mercedes-Benz 600 Pullman and said, "That is not a limousine. That is foreign policy." Unfortunately, the old man had summarised the car perfectly. Mercedes stretched the wheelbase, offered 4-door and 6-door layouts, face-to-face seating, landaulet bodies, and special equipment for heads of state. Underneath, a fuel-injected 6.3-litre V8 moved nearly 2.5 tons with remarkable speed, while air suspension kept the body level and calm. Then came the hydraulic madness. Seats, windows, doors, boot lid, and optional sunroof could operate through one high-pressure system. Only 429 Pullman limousines were produced. The 600 SEL made passengers feel important. The Pullman made everyone outside wonder whether they were legally allowed to look through the glass without lowering their voices. Of course, the same engineering that earns number 4 can ruin an owner. Hydraulic leaks demand specialists, air suspension must hold pressure, neglected lubrication damages suspension components. Brake work can be ruinous, and accessing buried controls turns simple labour into archaeology. Fuel injection, power steering, transmissions, and hydraulic compensators all require history, patience, and money. Buying a cheap Pullman is like adopting a palace because the front gate was discounted. So why place it above the newer 600 SEL? Because the Pullman is not simply a more luxurious saloon. It represents a moment when Mercedes would redesign the body, seating, roof, and machinery around a customer's authority. Number 3. is where my father stopped pretending this was a civilized ranking. The Mercedes-Benz 300 CE 6.0 AMG Hammer began as a respectable coup. Then pre-merger AMG removed the ordinary six-cylinder engine and installed a hand-built, 4-cam, 32-valve V8, producing roughly 385 horsepower and 566 Newton-meters. It could carry 4 people beyond 300 kilometers per hour while looking like someone had merely ordered wider wheels. That contradiction is why I love it. The Hammer was not a factory committee's performance package, it was a blank check conversion for clients from engineers who treated reasonable as a personal insult. My father called it a banker's Mercedes with a nightclub bouncer hidden under the bonnet. For once, his description was more accurate than the brochure. But the Hammer's legend also makes buying one dangerously complicated. Different markets, workshops, engines, body kits, and customer requests created cars that were never perfectly uniform, so provenance matters almost as much as condition. Genuine AMG engine parts, wide body panels, suspension pieces, and knowledgeable specialists are scarce and ruinously expensive today, while the common 4-speed automatic can feel slow and clumsy during kickdown. Period reviewers also noticed its heavy controls, enormous thirst, and front-end weight. Apparently 300 kilometers per hour was essential, but a modern gear change was considered unnecessary luxury. I place it third because it is thrilling, rare, and culturally important, yet it remains a bespoke rebellion rather than a complete factory program. Number 2 is the Mercedes-Benz 190 E 2.5 16 Evolution 2, and I like it because Mercedes finally stopped pretending a compact saloon had to behave politely. Only 502 were built, each with a 2.5-litre 16-valve engine, producing 235 horsepower, a 5-speed manual gearbox, 17-inch wheels, wide tyres, and high-drop pneumatic level control. Then there is that bodywork. The swollen arches, deep bumpers, front spoiler, and enormous rear wing were not added for teenage theatre. Mercedes shaped them to reduce drag and create more downforce for touring car competition. My father looked at it and said, that wing could serve dinner. Maybe, but every outrageous piece had a purpose. It turned the sensible baby Benz into a road-legal warning from the racing department, and somehow it still looked unmistakably serious, expensive, and German. What I admire most is not its straight-line speed, because 0 to 100 kilometers per hour took roughly 7.1 seconds. The brilliance is how completely Mercedes connected the road car to a racing purpose. The short-stroke engine loved revolutions, the 5-link rear suspension kept the car balanced, and the aerodynamic package gave the front and rear axles genuine stability at speed. It was still a Mercedes saloon, with 4 doors, visibility, and dignity to arrive somewhere without looking childish. Until you noticed the wing. I place it above the Hammer because this was not one wealthy customer's private conversion. Mercedes built a homologation machine and then proved the idea in touring car competition. It stays at number 2 only because the 560 SL gives me something racing cannot, a life I want to imagine. Number 1 is the Mercedes-Benz 560 SL, and this is where my ranking stops pretending that history alone decides greatness. Mercedes gave it a 5.6-litre V8, a 4-speed automatic, anti-lock brakes, improved suspension, a removable hardtop, and the kind of open cabin that turns an ordinary road into a personal occasion. It was not the fastest car here, nor the rarest, but it carried the final maturity of a roadster Mercedes had refined for more than 18 years. My father smiled and said, "Now you understand. Some cars impress the crowd, this one improves the day." That is exactly why I love it. The bonnet star, the upright view, the heavy controls, and the roof folded away make every journey feel deliberate, without becoming exhausting or asking you to prove anything to anybody else. Of course, number 1 is not pretending to be perfect. Rust can hide around the sills, floors, windshield, boot and headlamp areas, Neglected cars may need timing chain guides, valve guides, head gasket work, brittle wiring, climate control repairs, or expensive interior restoration. The steering is slow, the automatic can hesitate before downshifting, and this is a graceful grand tourer, not a sharp little sports car. My father calls that dignity, impatient drivers may call it Tuesday afternoon. But those weaknesses explain why it wins. The Evolution 2 impresses me with purpose, the Hammer frightens me with speed, and the Pullman overwhelms me with authority. The 560 SL does something more dangerous. It makes me imagine owning it. Roof down, California sun, V8 humming, nowhere urgent to be, and one unnecessary road left to take before going home.